And it's another fabulous day in Wellington Wells. The sun is up, and the weather is overcast and only slightly rainy, with occasional patches of lovely sunshine. Wakey, wakey, everyone. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. Good morning, dear friends. Good morning to you. Well, I hope you all had a lovely night's sleep with lovely dreams. It's shaping up to be a wonderful morning, and I think I can promise you that it's just going to get better all through the day. We all forget things from time to time, so don't forget the most important thing. Is it your tea? Is it your muesli? Is it bacon and eggs? Is it toast? Did you forget to butter your toast? No, don't be silly. It's your daily joy. Never forget to take your joy, and I guarantee your day will go swimmingly. So, let's take a look at today's schedule. What's going on in the village of Hamlin? Well, chatting and greeting and smiling and laughing, of course, and breakfast, lunch and dinner, and work, 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 work. But at 3, I hope you'll all take a quick break for our daily recreational activity. Today we will all gather round the telly for a rousing round of Simon Says. Well, I won't be gathering round the telly. I'll be in the telly. Just like every day, I'll be playing it with you. And then there'll be cake and prizes for all winners, and everyone's a winner, and everyone will be there. So don't miss it, or you're a rotten egg. But seriously, unless you have an awfully good reason, such as 2 broken legs, do be a sport at 3 o'clock, won't you? We love your company. And now, the hot new song from our favourite band. See you soon.
Truth is the enemy of happiness. Isn't that the decision we all made?
Oh. But you know the truth, don't you? There's not a thing I can tell you that you don't already know. Is there?
Have you had your joy, Ollie?
People in town are getting a tad bit skinny. I think they're starving to death. And they're painting the streets in fucking rainbows. Have you not noticed?
Oh, Ollie.
Why are you all wearing those ridiculous new masks?
You should get one. They shape your face into a smile. And when you smile, you can't help being happy.
We have to tell people. They need to know the truth.
No! It's better not to know.
Wakey, wakey, everyone. And it's another fabulous day in Wellington Wells. Do what you should be doing, and you never have to worry.
Sally?
Arthur, we're practically the only two people in this entire city not stoned out of our minds on joy.
It's not a lovely day for it. It's a fucking terrible day for it.
If you force people to have the emotions you want, then you've turned them into robots made out of meat.
Where is it? Where's the blackberry? You've gone too far this time.
People won't face facts. Not until we take their joy. And when we do that, they'll murder each other in the street.
Hello. Welcome to today's edition of Humour Hour, the show where you tell me jokes. Well, actually, I tell the jokes, but you send them in. And the first joke comes from Mr. Prentice Gibson of Claverton Down. Mr. Gibson says, what do you call three downers at the bottom of the sea? Not enough downers. Very good. We're starting off very strong today, aren't we? This one is from Bryony Ditton of Collier's Lane. What's the difference between a downer and a trampoline? You take off your shoes before you jump on a trampoline. How true! How very true! I mean, you don't want to damage a perfectly good trampoline, do you? Very good indeed. This is from Mrs. Jemima Hughes of Coronation Avenue. And her joke is, if you see a drowning downer, what do you throw him? I don't know, a brick, an anvil? Well, no, you can't very well throw an anvil, can you? What about a grenade? No. Who has grenades these days? Answer, another downer! I told you it was good. That's wonderful. It's very good. You see, they both drown. That is another one. How do you save a drowning downer? Answer, who cares? Very good. Lovely jokes. Lovely jokes today. Very funny indeed. And here's one from, not that one, no, this one here. It's from Clive Pritchard of Sladebrook Road. Mr. Pritchard, what do you have for us today? Question. How is a puppy like a mortally wounded downer? Answer. Eventually they'll both stop whining. Oh, Mr. Pritchard, you're quite a character, aren't you? Oh. You know, I miss my dog. What am I saying? I don't miss anything at all. I've got it all right here. Let's see what else we've got. Yes, we have something from our dear friend and faithful contributor, Mr. Persky Blackyoung. Yes, as you can tell from his name, Mr. Blackyoung isn't actually a real Englishman. He's an Afrikaner from South Africa, but he's doing his patriotic best to fit in. So, what do you have for us today, Mr. Blackyoung? Question. How is a downer like an apple? Answer. They both look good hanging from a tree. I'm not sure I get it. Oh, I see. Yes, very good. Hanging from a tree. And here's another one. What's the difference between a downer and a black plague? Well, one is a deadly organism that can destroy an entire city, and the other is a bacterium. Oh, very good. Well, I think it's going to be hard to top that one, but we must slog on, eh? It's one of our greatest English virtues. I have one here from Mr. Thomas Henchley of Longbottom Circle. What have you got for us, Mr. Henchley? Question. Why do we bury downers 20 feet underground? Answer. Because deep down, they're really nice people. Deep down, yeah. I think that's the best one of all. It really is. Very good. Remember, no one has to be a downer, but if you feel a bit down, take your joy. And if you see someone who seems a bit down, make sure he takes his joy. It's as simple as that. Happiness is a choice, and those who won't choose it are a threat to the rest of us. If you hear a good joke, please don't hesitate to drop a note marked Humour Hour at our studio, 2 Marlborough House in central Wellington Wells. Yes, I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. Tune in again next time for the best in humour. See you soon.
Wakey, wakey, everyone. It's another fabulous day in Wellington Wells. It's your dear friend, Uncle Jack, with a few brief tips that'll help you get along. The most important one, of course, is don't forget to take your joy. Drink plenty of water, too. Good thing there's joy in the water, eh? And eat plenty of nutritious food. May I be the first to recommend our local delicacy, the meat. Of course, be very careful to stay away from downers.
I just want them to stop screaming.
Fortunately, most of these sad lunatics live in the garden district, and no decent person goes there. It's full of dangerous maniacs who won't take their joy.
Good night!
Obey all official signs. They're for your safety and protection. Make friends with your fellow citizens. Talk to them.
What the fuck are you doing here?
Visit them. Wellies love a friendly guest. We Wellies do love our games. It's important to stay young at heart. So use our playgrounds. After all, if we don't, who on earth will? Obey police officers. They're there to protect you. Remember, they're the only ones who are supposed to be out at night. Wellington Wells is always a delightful place. If you just do like everyone else is doing and take your joy, you'll have a splendid time. And if you don't...
One less mouth to feed, eh? I think that's the best one of all. Very good. Well, it's getting late, isn't it? And it's time for all good wellies to cuddle up in bed. You don't want to be out after dark, do you? Foggy Jack might come for you. And then where would you be? In several places at once, wouldn't you? Would you like me to read you a bedtime story? Of course you would. Well, curl up in front of the telly, and Uncle Jack will tell you a story. Tonight's story is called Hansel and Gretel. Once upon a time there lived a poor woodcutter and his wife and his two aged parents. The old man's name was Hansel and the old woman's name was Gretel. There was little to eat, and when a hard winter came across the land, so hard that the wolves prowled the crossroads at night, the woodcutter could no longer feed his parents. He lay in bed with his wife, and they discussed what to do. The woodcutter's wife said, "Here's what we do, Liebling. We will lead them deep into the woods, yeah? To gather the firewood, okay? And then we will trick them, and we will leave them there. And natürlich, there will be enough bread for the both of us." For you see, they were not her parents, and they didn't particularly like her. Now at first the woodcutter said, "Well, I don't know, maybe I should leave you in the woods instead." But his wife said, "Oh, it's a funny man. No, they're old and they do not work anymore, okay?" And the woodcutter had to admit, she had a point. What the woodcutter did not know was that his parents had overheard the entire conversation, for they had very good hearing for old people, and they'd not been sleeping well. And Hansel said to Gretel, "Our son's going to leave us in the woods to starve. What shall we do?" Gretel said, "Let us gather bright pebbles by the light of the moon." The next day at dawn, the woodcutter and his wife led his parents deep, deep into the woods, deeper than they'd ever gone to cut firewood. The wife made a fire for them and said, "Rest by the fire while we chop some wood." And soon enough, they heard the sound of chopping. Hansel and Gretel thought perhaps their son had not left them after all. But late in the evening, the wind died down, and so did the sound of chopping. For it was only a branch that the woodcutter had rigged to bang against a tree in the wind. But Hansel and Gretel, they dropped bright pebbles all along the path into the woods, and they were able to follow them all the way back to the woodcutter's house, which had been their house when they raised him. When they came to the door, the woodcutter's wife, well, she was alarmed to see them. "You wicked people! Your son has been crying ever since you left him. He thought you did not want to come back." That night the woodcutter told his wife, "It's a gift from God. We don't have to leave my parents in the woods after all." "Oh, you fool! Idiot!" said the woodcutter's wife. "Do we have more bread heute Abend than we did yesterday?" And the woodcutter had already agreed once to abandon his parents, so he didn't really have a leg to stand on, did he? So he agreed to lead them out into the woods the next morning. That night, Hansel went to gather bright pebbles by the light of the moon, but the woodcutter's wife had locked the door, so he couldn't gather any. In the morning, Hansel begged his son for a crust of bread to eat on the forest path, but he did not eat it. Instead, as his son led him deep into the woods, he broke off small bits and dropped them on the forest path. All along the way, Hansel spoke to his son of happier days, when they both had been young and the land was fat. He was hoping to soften his son's heart, and the woodcutter, well, he smiled and nodded. But when you're going to kill a man, it costs nothing to be polite. And again, the woodcutter's wife made them a fire and made them lie down and rest by it, while the woodcutter and his wife went into the forest to chop wood. But they heard no branch banging against a tree, for the time was past for pretenses. Hansel said to Gretel, "Let us find our way home before night falls, because it's very cold and they're not coming back for us." And I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. We'll have to continue this delightful story tomorrow night. Did Hansel and Gretel find their way home? And did the woodcutter welcome them back? And did they all live happily ever after? I hope not. What kind of fairy tale do you think this is? Tune in tomorrow to find out.